Hey, what is up YouTube? Orstorm here with another deck profile for you guys today. This is an update to the Fabled Dark World's deck profile. After regionals a few weekends ago, I went ahead and got some new cards and went ahead and completely updated the deck. I noticed in testing it was a little bit inconsistent. The hands were a little cloggy. So I've gone ahead and updated the deck. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to deck profile. So first off, we have 3 copies of Fabled Raven. Raven's a pretty good card in this deck. It's your primary discard outlet. When you discard cards from your hand, you can gain a level and 400 attack. You don't want to discard too many cards though, because obviously, Dark World is all about keeping the hand advantage. And then 2 copies of Fabled Greenrow. Greenrow's effect is you can discard, you control a Fabled monster, you can discard her from hand to add a Fabled monster from your deck to your hand. Typically your combos to go Raven, pitch Greenrow, Greenrow, search Cruise, pitch Cruise with Raven's effect, then special summon Greenrow back. Typically that's your initial combo. That's what Greenrow does. I found her at 3 was a bit cloggy, so 2 is kind of an ideal number. 2 copies of Fabled Cruise. Fabled Cruise's effect, whenever she's discarded by any kind of card effect, which is kind of different than most Dark World monsters, she special summons a Fabled monster from your graveyard except herself. Now she can't target herself, but she can target another Fabled Cruise if there's one in your graveyard. 1 copy to Fabled Kushano. This is your other tuner. It's level 3. You can discard 1 Fabled monster to your graveyard except himself to add him back to your hand. Basically, you discard Cruise to add him back, and then special summon something out of your graveyard. It's pretty nice. It's also a tour guide target, so if you open tour guide and Greenrow, you can still get your search. Now for the Dark World side, 3 copies of Grapha. Grapha I feel like is a necessary card in this deck because because you can't really run MSTs in a deck like this where it's kind of very combo oriented. Because with Dark World dealings, you don't really want to top deck a MST off of dealings, so Grapha sort of has to be your MST. 3 copies of Snow. Snow is your Stratos. Basically, whenever it's discarded to graveyard by a card effect, it searches any Dark World card, including itself, which is pretty nice. And then 3 copies of Brow. Brow is basically your primary discard int. You discard it to draw an extra card, and it's a tour guide target. It's also a target for your Scarm. It's pretty nice. Then for the 5s, last 3 Dark World monsters, 2 copies of Gold and 1 copy of Silva. I find these are you kind of need these big guys because it opens your level, it makes easy level 8 synchro plays with Raven. So. And then for some of the last monsters, 1 copy of Tour Guide. Tour Guide's currently, unfortunately, placed at 1. When she was at 3, I usually would play 2 copies and 2 Scarms, but since Tour Guide's placed at 1, I do run 1 Scarm. Scarm also searches Brows as well, so if you open Tour Guide into Scarm, it's not necessarily a bad play. Even though Tour Guide, one of the last monsters, of course, 1 copy of ELS. ELS is a pretty important card in this deck because it opens up, this card will win you a lot of games. It's not unreasonable to have this, a Star Eater, and a Grapha on the board and kill your opponent 1 turn. So, BLS, great card. Now for the spells, 1 copy of Foolish Burial. You need this to send your Grapha to the graveyard, maybe send your Scarm, but most of the time you want to have a Grapha. 3 Dark World Dealings. Dealings is a pretty key card in any Dark World deck. It can get a little bad in certain matchups, but, I just prefer, you gotta have the 3 dealings in any Dark World deck. And then 3 copies of Upstart Goblin. Upstart Goblin's a pretty key card. I've tested it with and without, and I find Upstart adds a lot of consistency to the deck. In a deck like this where you spam 3k beaters and Grapha, you don't really mind giving your opponent a little bit of extra life points. The last 3 spells, 3 copies of Gates of Dark World. This is another draw engine. This is one of the reasons a lot of Dark World players, including myself, have ran Reckless Greed, because this card basically allows you to kind of get your draw phase regardless. Now we're getting to the traps. 1 copy of Fiend Griefing. Fiend Griefing, you know what this card does? This card came out in Cross Souls. So, its effect is basically you can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, shuffle the deck, then you can send 1 Fiend monster from your deck to your graveyard. This is usually primarily used in Burning Abyss decks in the Mirror Match, because you can shuffle Scarm back in the deck before they hit their end phase, and then dump any Burning Abyss name to your graveyard. It's a really good card, and in this deck you can send Scarm, you can send Grapha, and when your opponent tries to go for any of their targeting stuck monsters in your graveyard, pretty decent card. And then, for another discard out, we run 1 copy of Dark Smog. I found that 2 kind of gets a little cloggy. You really don't need the 2nd copy, especially in a combo-oriented build like this. I feel like the 1 is all I've really needed. And then 2 copies of Dimensional Prison. I find Deep Prison is still a pretty decent card. I mean, these would probably be storing Mirror Forces if the card wasn't so expensive, but you know, he rolled the punches. Last 3 traps is 3 copies of Reckless Greed. Much like with Upstart Goblin, I want to dig through my deck as quickly as possible. I want to draw as many cards as possible. And that's where the Recklesses come in. Now we're out through with the main deck. Let's go ahead and go the extra deck. A copy of number 49, Fortune Tune. With Tour Guide going to 1, I find that this is probably one of the better rank 3s I could be running in this deck, because it allows me to cycle my Tour Guide back and use it again. Plus it allows me to gain life points, and it does win a lot of games just, you know, sitting there on its own. 1 copy of Levier the Sea Dragon. Even with Tour Guide placed at 1, this is still a Dark World staple. It can special summon your Dark World monsters that are banished, and then bounce it back for Graphas to be used again. So basically, if you've got a Graph in your graveyard and you can make this, it basically means it's basically the equivalent of getting a free 3k beater and then adding any of your banished Dark Worlds back to your hand, which is really nice. Now if I play 2 rank 8s, 1 copy Divine Dragonite Felgrand. I prefer this over Zombie Stein, because Zombie Stein doesn't, you don't get Dark World effects and you send them via Zombie Stein's effect. Felgrand is still a really good card. Being able to protect itself from Nagaki and other board removal cards is always nice. And then last ranking, 1 copy of Hermetic Sun Overlord of Heliopolis. This is mostly to clear. It doesn't target. You can clear off annoying threats, and just generally good card. Now we're getting to the synchros for the 7s. 1 Black Rose Dragon. Clearing the board is always nice before you make a big push. Black Rose is pretty much be in any of my levels. It's always be a level 7 synchro. Copy of Clearwing Synchro Dragon. I really like this card in combination with because this deck runs a lot of big beefy monsters, and Clearwing can just keep them safe from being spun with monster effects. Copy Yazi Evil the Yang Zing. I really like this card. Targeting protection, and it just deals a lot of annoying, and a lot of decks really can't get over it when they can't target a monster. And then for getting the 8th, 1 copy of Stardust Dragon. I still like Stardust. Stardust is really clutch. Keeping your position in a deck like this that can lose hard to board wipes if you're in a bad position. So Stardust is really good. 1 copy of Darkin Dragon. I like that this card does target, but I like the fact that it sends the monster. Gets over a lot of annoying monsters like Beazle, and Wind Up Zenmane. Anything that has destruction immunity or protection effects, this will easily get over it. That's why it's here. Then 1 copy of Thought Ruler Archfiend. Everyone knows I have a pretty strong attachment to this card. I like having protection from targeting spells or traps, and just giving me more life points is really nice. Then 1 copy of Crimson Blader. Crimson Blader is still probably my favorite synchro monster. Being able to lock your opponent out of summoning high-level monsters. I feel like this is one of those cards that'll always be good, albeit maybe not quite as good as it used to be, with pendulums being more relevant. Last level 8 is 1 copy of Fabled Dark World. You can activate this by summoning. You can once per turn with this guy out, you can discard 1 fiend monster to draw 1 card. It is a cost, so you will not get your Dark World effects. Dark Worlds only activate when they're sent by a card effect, but you can get your Fabled Crucis effects. One of my favorite combos is summoning this, pitching Cruce and special summoning Raven, and synchroing up for this next card, which is Fabled Leviathan. This is the Fabled boss monster. Its effect is when if its card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can select the 3 Fabled monsters and add them to your hand. So basically, it's like if you do run, it's sort of like a mini kind of like Pot of Avarice, if you will. I like to make, and it's plus with gates out, it's a 3300 beater, which is not to be underestimated. Another last level 10, 1 copy of Leo, Keeper of the Sacred Tree. Especially with Ascension Side Dragon being a prize card, I feel like I obviously can't run that card, but Leo's still a pretty damn good card. Being able to mostly immune to targeting is really nice. 3100 beater, not bad. And the last synchro monster in the extra deck is 1 copy of Star Eater. It's a towers out. It gets over. It's a really big monster. Being able to hit the field, not be able to activate effects, and be able to attack, and just your opponent not be able to do anything. It's just really damn nice. So anyway, guys, as always, I'd like to thank all you guys for watching the deck profile today. Really appreciate it when you guys watch my videos. Tune on Tuesday, Thursdays, Fridays for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. And if you like what you saw from this video, please subscribe. So, Storm signing out.